Welcome to Everything with Emilie, where we talk about just about anything, whether that be pop culture, people's interests, or just generally what they've been up to. Today I have a lovely guest, my best friend Alice. And Alice, this summer, has gone into something new and interesting, like something she's always wanted. This summer, she got a banjo and she's starting FIU this semester studying history. Welcome, Alice.
Hey.
So, tell me a little bit about your summer and how you got into the banjo.
Well, my dad is from Miami, but his parents are from Georgia. And I started playing guitar really young. I got into guitar or ukulele. And my grandparents live in Leesburg, Florida, and they always tied that kind of like American folk music interest into me. You know, I would go to places where they play folk music, or I'd hear about the history. And it just really, it called to me. It made sense. It's very like when I think of home, that's what I think about. Like when I'm angry,
Yeah.
I play guitar. It gets me into a flow state, music. And so I had learned guitar and ukulele from a teacher when I was young, but I didn't really go so far.
Yeah.
Because my hands, honestly, were too small. My hands were too small for the
Fair.
guitar that I had. And I felt like, you know, it hurts. I would get blisters, but I was always into it.
Mm.
And then middle school, high school, I really taught myself and I got fluent with it. And so
In guitar and ukulele?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me move on to bass. Let me teach myself that.
By the way, Alice is also amazing and she taught me how to play bass. And I am very unteachable when it comes to music. That's not my thing at all.
You didn't start young.
Yeah.
I was
I've just
unteachable,
never been a very musically inclined person. Like, I love music, but naturally my rhythm is terrible. Like, and you know this.
Yeah, but it's also, you know.
But it's still fun. Like, I'm having fun with it, and I'm not the worst person in the world. Like, I've picked it up a little
It's
bit.
a brain thing. You got to start young. And so I was like, as someone who always really liked folk music, American folk, I was like, let me move on to other instruments that are in that. So I started playing auto harp. Had a really nice one, actually from the same company that makes this.
Oh, really?
Oscar Schmidt, yeah. And then I sold it. R.I.P. I'll get it back one day.
Rip.
And then I got the banjo, which...
And you got this, what, a few weeks ago?
3-4 weeks. Her name is Katie Cruel, after one of my favorite folk songs of all time, which is about a roving woman, and it actually dates back to the Revolutionary War. So it's, you know, very old. And thought it would be easier than it was. It's not. When you learn something new, obviously from going to guitar to bass, it's very easy.
Yeah.
Because guitar is usually open E strings. So the strings go E, A, D, G, B, E. And the strings of a bass are the first 4 strings of guitar, E, A, D, G. But this is G, D, G, B, and then D again. So it's crazy, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
You have to get used to different strings. Like I'm usually, oh, this is that. This I can counter with that. So you have to get, you know, I was used to stringing with my hands and picking with this. So I knew that, but you have to learn completely new things. It would have been easier had I been like, okay, I'm going to learn mandolin or violin, also known as fiddle, which, you know, are also instruments in folk songs because they all have that open E tuning.
Yeah.
But this is a little different, and it's different for many reasons. So let me go into the history of the banjo.
This is where she's going to bring some of her fun history major in.
That's why I like music. It's, you know, it's all history. So we go back to early music. Some of the people have always been using instruments, but the first written music was, of course, Catholic Gregorian chants. And we go from people using instruments freely to the spread of unified religion where they're like, this isn't cool. And a lot of religions were like, instruments are too related to paganism. Let's not. So let's just do singing. Certain types of people who study and practice Islam, they also don't really like instruments. But when you when you study like the guitar, like a guitar lute, they all kind of come from Eritrea, which is on the Horn of Africa, right near Ethiopia, where you get, you know, instead of a harp where you just have the string suspended, you have the strings that are on a bridge so you can, change the tune by pressing down.
Yeah.
And a banjo is kind of a love child between a guitar, lute, which comes from that early instrument, and a drum, where you would just suspend the strings over it. Instead of resonating on a piece of hollow wood, it resonates on a drum. This right here is called the drum, the head. So when you see a banjo, and you say, I want to buy a banjo. Banjos are usually just 4 strings. These strings, right?
This is 4 or 5?
Well, this is a 5-string
This one's
banjo,
5?
which is usually used for bluegrass, but it has these 4 strings are the main strings you play, right? And usually this doesn't have this back. Those banjos are called open face banjos. So it's just this drum and there's nothing behind it. But those are a little more quiet. When you perform, you want to have a resonator because that sound's going to bounce in and come out these holes and be even louder.
Okay, cool.
So this is called a resonator banjo. And you'll notice that unlike a guitar or a mandolin, this string, all these strings come up to here where they can be tuned. This string only comes up to here.
Oh.
And the reason
interesting.
people associate it with like oldness is because the use of drone notes, where it'd be like bing ling 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 bing ling ling bing ling 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 bing. That bing 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 that's always through it would be somebody like using this and hitting it repeatedly. So in claw hammer,
just that top string?
Yeah. But see how I'm not going like that? I'm just playing the notes and the melody on these 4 strings and changing the chords here, and I'm not even doing that. So G, I'll be like, see how that's constantly?
Yeah.
Like in claw hammer, you'll go. And the reason the banjo is so unique, a lot of times you'll look at bluegrass players and they'll be like this is a very, I got this banjo 3 weeks ago, so it's very nice and clean, but seasoned banjo players always have like this scratch. Seasoned.
I like that. Seasoned.
Always have this scratch, this dirt here, and that's because in claw hammer, specific type of banjo playing, you not only hit the strings, but when you do, you hit the drum to make kind of like a,
And when you say like, because you kind of always wanted a banjo, right? Like, when you kind of finally bite the bullet and be like, yes, I'm going to buy it. Having a job.
Yeah, having finances. And also it goes back to history. My history, I particularly like American history.
Yeah.
So back to the history part. They used banjos in Africa and they brought it with them to America. And it's also kind of a way to get around certain rules because, of course, they wanted all African Americans that were in the New World to become Christians, and one of the ways you do that through music. That's where the gospel tradition comes from. That's where a lot of times percussion is very based in African music.
Yeah.
Because drums were very popular in Africa, and that's what they brought with them. But a lot of times they couldn't use drums. There was a law back in the day, I can't remember where, a slave law that they weren't allowed to use drums. So a lot of musical Southern traditions among African Americans have to do with like chant circles or shouts that they would get one day off, and when they would come together, they would get in a circle and that's how you keep the rhythm going and you use your voice. That's why some of the best vocalists when it comes to America have been African Americans, because they come straight out that tradition. It's much more.
I never knew about that.
And that's how you pass things down. Especially the banjo is more of an oral tradition because of the law. African Americans weren't allowed to read or write for so many years. All these songs passed down through oral tradition, which is more common in their sects of Christianity. Baptist, Methodist. Yeah. That kind of type. And then, so, it's prominent among them. And then the Civil War happens, Reconstruction era. They keep practicing it. And then records get invented. Oh my God, this music, which is something that couldn't really be sold unless you had the performer there, can be sold now. So record companies come to the South and they start. So it's actually funny. At the CMAs, Shabuzi, an African-American country artist, was presenting an award, and a woman next to him joked. She said, "We all know Beyonce invented country music," and Shabuzi leans in and says, "Technically, that would be the Carter family. Did they invent it? No, but they were one of the first people to have records recorded of these very old songs. A lot of them were original, but a lot of them had been through the South forever, and they recorded them themselves."
Is that why? I mean, not that I'm very into Beyonce, but that's why she named her album that.
Cowboy Carter?
Yeah. Or no?
Well, no, because she's Miss Carter.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
No, but the Carter family is very important.
What's Jay-Z's real name?
Jay Carter.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know what the Z stands for. Maybe he ran through all the letters and he was like, that one sounds good. And so when they got to the South, they immediately, just like America after the Civil War, went into the idea of being a separatist nation, that everything was separate. So after the Civil War, and even through all this mixing, all this bluegrass that was inspired by Irish and Scottish indentured servants that would come over and mix with the black population, and they would bring their fiddles and be like, they made their own genre. They were like, let's immediately put that line back. Any record, there's a great video on Vox, I forget what it's called. I think it's about explaining African American history through the banjo, where this great musician explains it. Any record that was by an African American or not white was a race record. Even if it was the same type of music, and the white people would be called a hillbilly song. And even though it was the same, but obviously race records wouldn't be recorded as much.
Of course.
So you lost a lot of really, really popular music among them. And then the North at the time kind of had a fascination with how people in the South lived. So they started doing, around the turn of the century, around the late 1800s, minstrel shows where they would perform music by African Americans, of course, in blackface. That actually...
Really?
Yeah, I think people don't know how much it influenced American history. It influenced animation. Some of the first animation would be of black performers or of minstrel shows. Like, that's why Steamboat Willie wears gloves. Has
really?
A lot of times
I was about to say, I knew one of the first animations was the one of Mickey.
Yeah, he was kind of based off of that.
Really?
And yeah.
Honestly, if you think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah, they would take like those popular stories that were just made to demean people in the South by white people, and they would go over that. So it got kind of associated with a certain type of person, even though this is just music throughout the South. And I want to say the reason I like folk music so much is there's a saying, Dolly Parton says it a lot, that all you need is 3 chords in a song. Not everyone throughout the history of time can relate to Charlie XCX. Let's go to the club, and then to the club, and then on the plane, and then in the club, you know?
Yeah.
Most of it, like, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? The Carter family was traveling through the South during a tour, and they crashed into someone's mailbox, and they got out, and they're like, I'm so sorry. And the guy was like, I don't want any money, I just want you to sing Will the Circle Be Unbroken, which is an original by them, and it's about grief after someone's mother has died, because the man's mother had recently died. So most of the songs I sing about, like Wayfaring Stranger, is, you know, being what people can relate to. Most people, not just rich people, living such a strenuous life and wanting better.
Yeah,
and
like
the hope. Even non-atheists can, atheist myself, non-atheist can relate to the hope.
That's the thing that's so great about music is, like,
after death.
Anyone can enjoy music. Like, music is for all people, no matter what.
Depends.
Who can't enjoy music?
Certain types of music. The Puritans couldn't enjoy music. It was illegal. They said, get that devilry out of here.
Well,
but that's why
whatever.
I like folk music, because it's written by a certain
For the most part, music is for everyone. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but certain themes run rampant that I like. Like the recent guy that came under fire, not enough, he made the song Try That in a Small Town. and nothing happened about it, which is secretly he's talking about lynching, that small town justice, that they don't do trials, they don't do anything. If they think someone did something, they just go out and get them. And of course, that's the reason why so many people of color were lynched throughout time, especially in Florida. And then you think about Billie Holiday. She popularized the song Strange Fruit. You know, Southern trees bear strange fruit. He's talking about lynching. And the person who wrote that song at the time got subpoenaed by Congress. The song was just about something that was so real. Got subpoenaed, and they said, "Are you a communist? Did the communists pay you to make this?" Because even as we see, like, Donald Trump is currently trying to censor the Smithsonian Museum, saying that their exhibit on slavery paints it as, you know, paints it as too bad or worse than it was. I want to say the B word, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like,
no cursing on everything on Emilie.
No cursing on everything on Emilie. But it's, when people actually talk about it, the people that were affected, the only people that feel victimized by it are people that think their ancestors may have been a part of that. Like, they're not saying, this is terrible, this is bad. Obviously, it was. They're talking about it, and then that censorship, you know, doesn't come from them. It's not, it's the people that were affected by it. It's, you know. And so a lot of the songs, especially in the South, you look at, like, these are caused by real events. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so but people associate it with something else. You know, they want to be like, oh, it's from a different type of living, but it isn't. And that's the whole saying that music, you can't separate politics from art.
Yeah.
Like,
because most art is made with something in mind, of course.
One of my great-grandfather, one of his favorite songs was 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford, who grew up in Appalachia. And it's about how they would, like, abuse very poorly people that were minors. Like, they would pay them only in these kind of tokens that you can only use at a store that the company used.
Wow. And
so the cycle of poverty would just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. That's why Loretta Lynn, I'm pretty sure, she had Coal Miner's Daughter, which was about, you know, her dad was a coal miner.
Yeah.
And then you look at history, not many people know that there was a war fought between coal miners and the government because they were striking. And the government said, no, you were all communists. We're going to come in and we're going to shoot you and do riots. And
for what? For wanting to make more money?
No, for wanting to survive.
Just for wanting to survive?
Yeah.
Wow. Gotta love it.
And so the people that, but it's funny because now in modern country, also known as post 9/11 country, people that support certain parties that get a lot of money through lobby fracking are also coal miners. They don't know their own history. It's very, very subdued, especially with the history of country music. And I was talking about that song, this genre that was kind of invented by the people that he's belittling. You know, it's a big divide, and you'll see that a lot in different types of music, whether it's a big country, whether it's serving the masses, like someone like Morgan Wallen or you know, other people, or whether it's like this oral tradition of living. You know, it wasn't made by people that were certainly rich. You know, to be a composer in the 1800s, you had to be of a certain, you had to pander to a certain class.
Yeah, of course.
Because, you know, poor people aren't going to come in their suits and ties and sit in this huge thing.
Yeah.
But country and folk music is just people sitting in their, you know, there's thunder. People sitting in their homes talking about their lives. Post and pre-Reconstruction era.
I didn't realize how much history there was. Like, I mean, I know that's the thing. It's like there's so much history behind almost everything you do any day, but like I feel like so many people don't take the time out of their day to like actually look into it and become knowledgeable on it.
No matter what, everything and anything will either become history or nothing. Anything, it will be forgotten. The only way that people or events stay alive is by people continuing to talk about it.
Yeah. So do you know any, I mean, I know you explained a lot on the history and stuff. Do you know any music from like that time? Or like what type of songs have you been learning on the banjo?
Well, one of them, I was inspired. I haven't seen Sinners yet, but
Well, Sinners was great.
a lot of movies don't really talk about like an era that because I like to look at my family's history from that era, from the early 1900s in the South, and Sinners did it good. Especially when you talk about Asian Americans in this country, they famously had some Asian characters in it.
Yeah.
Because often there was a group of people, Chinese people, that moved to the Delta, which is, around the Mississippi River area, because white store owners wouldn't sell to people of color. And so the Chinese were like, that group of Chinese people were like, I can help in this market. And of course, white people didn't want to buy from Chinese, so that they kind of grew together. And to this day, you get there and you're like, I don't often see many people of Asian descent speaking with a thick Missouri accent. It's a very special group. In this song, in the movie, of course, the Irish dude with his little banjo plays a song called Pick Poor Robin Clean.
Jack McDonald?
The most generic Irish name in the world.
McDowell, Jack McDonald. I don't know. He's been in a lot of
Patrick
other stuff.
McGallagher.
Yeah, like...
they just...
He was also in Skins.
No, but that's also important to history, because a lot of the... you look through history and you look at the signs from the 1800s, 1900s that say, Irish need not apply. That, and the idea of white trash, that people from Ireland weren't really associated with... You look at a map of the ethnicities of America, and the majority of white people in the South come from English descent. And in the Midwest, it's German. It's not many Irish. So when the Irish came over in the 1800s, they were like, how can we make ourselves better by marginalizing these people? Yeah. And so they also integrated with communities of color and got into music. That's where you get some of the fiddle tradition in Appalachia, especially. And so they sing a song by Gishy Williams, who Gishy Willie or Gishy? Yeah, I think Gishy Willie. Gishy. Yeah, Geeshie. Called Pick Poor Robin Clean. And of course, they only do one verse. I'll tell you why in a second. And obviously, most of the songs in the South are about being poor.
Yeah.
Like, they still look at you weird. A lot of times, people that aren't from the South, they're like, you eat your own animals, you raise this? Like, you're not really in the tradition. Pick Poor Robin. Of course, they choose Pick Poor Robin Clean because it's the name of a bird, but it's also the name of a person. And they're vampires, they eat people. But,
in the movie Sinners, if
people
anyone is
in the North, especially in the Jim Crow era, people in the North had access to better food. So they didn't eat, like, rabbits or robins. Like, in the South, you eat robins. There's that one football player from North Carolina that eats raccoon. And people think that's so weird, but that's quite common.
I mean, especially...
In
I feel like... Yeah, at least in Florida, everyone knows people be...
Eating raccoon there,
Eating raccoon, squirrel, alligator.
And of course, it's the joke of the song that you pick poor Robin Clean, picked his head, picked his feet. I would have picked his body, but it wasn't fit to eat. And of course, I only do one verse of the song because later in the song, written by African Americans, they use more of their own language explaining their position in the South. And so... I learned that song just because it's,
So, would you like to... We only have, a few minutes left. Would you like to do a little demonstration?
Oh my God, I'm messing up. It's very easy. It's, you have a few chords and the truth. Oh. My banjo is very out of tune.
It's okay. No one needs to know.
And you go G, and you do C, and you go back to the melody.
Yeah, so...
This looks so pathetic.
You can sing too if you want.
No, I'm not. I'm not a singer. So, it's kind of a weird instrument. You can do strumming, but most of the time, what you see is people doing chord formations and different types of strumming techniques, like a forward roll, a backward roll, or alternating thumbs. Some of my favorite banjo playing is two-finger banjo, where you just use these two. And a lot of times people use picks because it makes it louder, especially if you don't have a resonator
Banjo's
banjo.
so loud though, I feel like.
This is a resonator. If it was an open back banjo, and we were in, also you have to think about, ain't no speakers back then.
Yeah, no, of course.
So you would use picks to make it extra loud.
The other day,
So you would do your chords with whatever roll you want, and then you would do little things. Like you would do little things with maybe your pinky or your thumb to add melody. But you're basically just following the, play me this, play me that.
Yeah.
Songs that everybody knows that they've been taught since birth, and oh, it's a chord, it's G A D G. Then we return. So as long as you know what chords the song is, you can kind of jump into whatever people are playing, and then a violin would play with those chords, a guitar would play with those chords, and then they would break into their little solos. And a lot of times people just use these 3 strings, especially if they play guitar, because the banjo's kind of loud. So
kind of loud.
Like, bro, that's like if you're fully strumming. So people don't really like to hear strumming a lot. They like to hear just like
This is so unrelated. But I feel like another instrument that's so loud that I feel like I didn't realize until a few weeks ago, like when I went to North Carolina, someone was playing like a trumpet. Trumpets are so loud.
Well, it also depends on lung strength.
But this guy was like going at it for hours, super loud. It was cool.
Well, that's why people like them, especially before electric music came out, because you can actually hear it.
It was really cool. It was something like I feel like you don't really get to experience a lot in Miami. Like it was like in a little bar, but it was like an open kind of bar and like a live band playing like trumpet and like other music. But it was so very cool. And we were not even there anymore. We were like on a rooftop bar somewhere else from that, and we still heard it.
A lot of times the music you hear, if you study your history, and the music that's popular has to do with technology at the time.
Yeah, that I do know.
The reason Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters were so famous is because before the invention of the certain type of mic, I forget the name of it, that came out in the 40s, the early type of recordings, you can't really hear well, so you would have to go really high. Like Cole Porter is like, hello, my honey, my sweetheart, and then they invented this new type of mic that could pick up low sounds that you wouldn't have to like the OG recorder for those little Edison cylinders had this huge horn, like this cylinder like tube that was maybe 5-6 feet long, and you'd have to shout into it to be heard. And that's why when you hear recordings from the 10s and 20s, they're yelling at it, And a lot of times back then you would yell when you sang too, because people in the back of the room can't hear you.
Yeah.
But when they invented this new mic and Bing Crosby came up to that sing, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas,
I like your demonstration.
He was one of the first people to sing low and be able to be heard in these new microphones. And that's when you hear in the 50s, a lot of people like Jim Reeves, Tennessee Ernie Ford were famous for being baritones. They liked that, and they hadn't heard it before because they couldn't.
Yeah, a baritone is like a lower, right?
Yes. Versus a soprano, which would be like up here.
Soprano. The soprano.
Listen to this. I hate my son.
Pulp.
Pope?
Pulp.
Pope?
I
like the one that says some Pope. I like the one that says some Pope. This is lots of Pope.
How about that?
Tony Soprano, what do you think you're doing? Carmela Anthony, she walks like...
She's awesome.
I love her.
I wonder if there's any type of like... What about the Italians in music?
The Italians in music?
What? Yeah, like I feel like I have no knowledge of Italians and music.
Italians kind of stuck, this instrument, when I say Africa, banjo comes from West Africa. They didn't really pop up in West Africa. They didn't have banjo.
Not with
They had
banjo.
violin, of course, but of course singing, concertas. Well, that's where the Renaissance was, when music was really popping. Because for the first time, they're like, maybe science and art doesn't have to be strangled by religion. It can be uplifted by religion. That's why Leonardo da Vinci, y'all know, And someone of his caliber and of his, disposition used like Catholic sponsors, the Pope sponsors, to actually make innovations in music. And that's where some of the some of the terms we still use, like an allegro, a concerta,
Interesting.
concerto. What's it called? What's it called? When they do, like, they go up and they go down. I forget what it's called, but most of the words when you're talking, a crescendo. A lot of the times when you're talking about musical words, they're in Italian because they were kind of talked about for the first time in the Renaissance era because they were popping at the time, Yeah. Some of the first, like, big put together. And that was also during the Enlightenment when they're like, maybe instruments and science isn't against God, so let's do it,
Facts. Oh, I know we're basically out of time, but how do you just know these things? Like, do you just...
Baby, everyone asks me that. It's called being a history major. No, but...
I feel like obviously you weren't always a history major.
No,
like,
but I had always asked questions, and I wanted to know. I didn't just want to play on my freaking PS3 Battlefront all the time and just be like, I would ask questions.
I know you just want to play on the Xbox all day long.
Geeked up, playing Xbox all day. I was
thinking.
No, but I remember...
But even while you play video games, I feel like you're always learning
that's where
things.
I learned some of my old music from Fallout. But when I was little, we had to do a little project on an American person. And I was like, I want to do Beyonce or someone that was like, that I thought was cool because that was cool at the time. And Mom was like, no, you were doing the Angel of the Battlefield, the founder of the American Red Cross, Clara Burton. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Everyone's being so cool. And she was like, no. You're going to do this. And I was like, wait a minute. She actually is super cool.
Yeah.
Like, she actually made a huge difference. Like, that's what music that heals people, not everyone can relate to. It's okay to just admit that you're obsessed with me. But, like, everyone can relate to grief.
Yeah.
And pain and dying. Or most people. The majority of people throughout time. And that's why I like Clara Burton.
Music is so great because, like, there's a type of song for every emotion. Like, on Spotify, I organize all my playlists by, like,
that's why it's so controversial. That's why I didn't let music because they were like, it's too emotional.
God forbid a girl is happy.
God forbid a girl frolics.
God forbid a girl feels a little bit of emotions through a song.
Yeah. God forbid she shows her ankles.
Well, I feel like... Well, so when do you start school? Next week? Are you excited for your history classes?
Yeah, I am. I went to NSU, Nova, and when I was there, the Trump administration targeted them, and they basically cut like a lot of their history class.
Really?
And
I did not know that.
They took one of my professor's papers, and they put it through Word, and they typed in anti-colonial.
Are you for real?
And they took all the sentences that hadn't highlighted it and said, get it out. Which relates to what Trump is doing with its, which is crazy because they're always like, the woke, the censorship.
Yeah,
but they're not.
We're not even going to get there.
If you talk about facts and you just mention facts and you say, no, this is too emotional, it's not. It's making you emotional because you don't like it, but it's just simply facts. So if you change it because you want it.
You can't erase facts. Like.
Well, you can't.
I mean, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't, but you can.
But when you can, you're just kind of being a tyrant. So, like,
I'm excited to start at FIU. However, it's quite an interesting time.
Yeah,
just like how with the cuts to the WHO and us leaving the WHO, World Health Organization, and the cuts to the National Institute of Health. A lot of
and every other thing.
A lot of research students, biochemical, about 10 years ago would have gotten a job. Now it's like, hey,
and it's a scary time. Yeah.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, well.
At least we got Fortnite Battle Pass.
How can we complain? We got Fortnite season.
We got
whatever.
Matcha Dubai.
Chocolate Labubu, Dubai chocolate Labubu, matcha, Claro.
All girls born after 1998 eat hot chip and lie.
Facts. And charge their phone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for... Wait, we're going to look at this camera and say goodbye. Ooh. Well, thanks, Alice, for giving us a little history lesson and music lesson. I bet you guys didn't know these things that you learned today, which you should know because they're very important to history. I think you guys all need a friend like Alice to kind of educate you guys on some important things in the world. Like maybe like, I feel like you should find the history behind all the interests that you have, because, like, there's always an important story behind the things that you're into. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think you should actually, like, think about what you're talking about on a day-to-day basis. And, like...
Also, check your sources.
Yeah. And check multiple sources. Like, don't just get your information from one source. Like, a place like Miami community newspapers, like, where maybe, like, we all have our own personal opinion, but we put that aside.
No, there's the history that you do facts, and you say, this is my interpretation of that.
And when
you
we're
can
having
agree or
people
disagree
on...
with it's facts. There's that, and then there's that.
We're having people on of all types of backgrounds and talking about everything, like, no matter what. And that's what you should do.
Don't shut up, and don't be silenced. Was it this camera?
This one.
Don't be silenced. Because that's what they're trying to do.
So, yeah.
Scream, yell.
Learn.
Don't let them
talk to people. Enjoy hobbies, but find the meaning behind them. Okay, thank you, guys. Bye.
And wear a suit.